Welcome to Off the Record. Finally, for the first time, Off the Record as a sponsor. So let me get the sponsorship out at the beginning of the show for everybody while I know y'all are paying attention. But wherever you're listening, however you're watching, shout out to Stitcher. You guys really need to check out the Stitcher app. For those that's watching or listening, you already know, you might mess with Stitcher. You might know how to get down. But for those that don't know, Stitcher's a free podcasting app on iPhone and Android. And they've got Stitcher Premium, and it has all kinds of dope shows that you can get ad-free and premium content. So check out Stitcher, check out their app, check out Stitcher Premium, use promo code crossover, and you get a month free off of Stitcher. So what's going on, fellas, man? How y'all feeling?
Yeah, feeling good, feeling great.
Damn, we got a sponsorship already. That's better than the last place we was at. Oh, too soon.
Throwing shots.
Bang.
I had to get one in.
It's great for the information to be put out there to know that we have that sponsorship. Yeah, man, we're moving along, taking them strides, taking those steps to where we want to go and where we need to be. So,
sure, just the beginning.
It's definitely just the beginning. Now I know you all. I'm sure y'all were on social media at least the last 24 hours when Cardi B and Meg dropped that joint. WAP. I don't want to say what it stands for. I'm a Christian man. My middle name is Christian, so I don't want to say what it stands for. But
wet ass punani.
Listen, I'll be honest. I might get clowned for this show, but I didn't figure out what it meant until like today. When did it drop? It dropped yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I didn't figure it out until today, and I was like, "Oh, that's why everybody talking about it like that." So,
well, I just saw the video today.
I saw screenshots.
Yeah,
I listened to it last night.
Yeah, I saw the video this morning this afternoon, and yeah, it's woo.
Did y'all see all the y'all see all the Republican congressmen and senators coming out talking about that song set women back like ages? And one of the Republican congressmen, of course they're white, they said that that Meg and Cardi B are the product of growing up without fathers in their lives. Y'all see all that?
Ooh, I did not see that. I saw. Go ahead, Park.
No, go ahead, B. My bad.
No, I was just saying I did see a lot of backlash. I saw some about the Kylie Jenner thing. I guess that's a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't get that hate. I guess they're calling her a culture vulture or whatever. But some of the things that's being said, it's just they started a petition. Almost got 50. Or they're trying to get 50,000 votes or signatures. I don't know.
To get it removed, right?
Right, it's just to get it removed from the video. That's a bit much. That's a bit. Yeah. But I didn't hear about this congressman thing.
There's a bunch of them.
I didn't hear about that. I'm not surprised because Cardi has been over the years has been very open about her political stance, and surprisingly to some, she's into politics a lot. And I think recently she came out and said she spoke to Joe Biden about his possible VP nominations. So I'm not surprised that they coming out and speaking. I did see, though, our buddy, Dr. Boyce Watkins, say that, though. I did see him come out and say, this has set Black women back. This is a product of not having your father in your life. This is also why. What did he say? I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it was along the lines of something like, "This is why 12-year-olds we get mad when our 12-year-old daughters or whatever get hit on, or they overly sexualized." But this is a result of that. He said something along the lines of that.
I can't Boyce is one of those people that he's just capitalizing on the attention that's coming off the song. That's why he's saying something in the first place. Second of all, beyond all of that, man, if that song, if your 12-year-old is listening to that song, that's a product of the parent, not of the artist. Period. Like that's just what it is, man. So like, and kids are gonna find that kind of music, you know, enjoyable because that's what kids do. You know what I'm saying? And if they want to rap about that, then they can rap about it, man. Like it's not new. We actually went back after we listened to it last night. We went back and found music from black folks in like the 30s. And I mean, it was vulgar. Like it wasn't what you like. It was in your face vulgar. You know what I'm saying? And certainly if you listen to the comedy shows from back then, from like Red Fox and Richard Pryor, their shows are super vulgar. And so it's hard to be critical of this when like, it's really a generational thing. That song isn't made for people in their 50s. It's made for younger people. But we all had our music like that within our generations. So I don't, you know, whether they had fathers or not, that's not gonna dictate the kind of music somebody likes. Like one politician was like, one of the Republicans was like, they happen to stumble on it. And my thing is, if that came up in your Apple feed or your Spotify feed, that tells me you're already listening to that kind of music. Because those lists are curated based on what you listen to. So like, and they the same ones that we live just outside of DC, all of us. They're the same ones down there on the block hollering at prostitutes on the low.
Yeah.
So
It's always been that like the previous generation usually always has a problem with, you know, music that comes out in the generations after it. I mean, we, you know, I will, you know, not listen to certain type of music, not because, you know, I appreciate that, you know, there's artists there, but there are some things that I don't listen to, but like, I don't know, like it that always kind of like confused me how people could be like that though, because I remember growing up, I wasn't really allowed to listen to, you know, songs with explicit lyrics. At least if my parents caught me, they would confiscate, you know, like CD or whatever. But like, I seen like Terminator, Aliens,
right?
You know, you know, so like it was like I was a movie buff, you know, from the beginning because you know my dad watched a lot of movies. So I don't know. I was always kind of confused by that. I mean, like you said, artists like Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing. I mean, I know there's some folks out there that will,
Let's get it on.
Yeah.
Right. You'll put that song way up, you know, at the top, one of the best songs ever. But then, you know, and Whap is, you know.
And look, while people might not mess with R. Kelly right now, when R. Kelly was cool, his music was super vulgar, and everybody in the '90s was rocking to his joints.
Yeah, I mean,
put it out. I got confiscated.
Just think about the song "Key in the Ignition." You know what I mean? Like metaphorically, well, of course, we all know what that stands for. So, every generation, you know, has their music your way. It's raunchy and it's vulgar, man. Like, you know.
Yeah, I'll go back as far as like, the late 70s, early 80s. Like, one of the most vulgar, nasty mugs that I've heard, and it was totally surprised, that my parents used to blast every Saturday night was Clarence Carter. Now, I don't know if y'all know about Clarence Carter.
Nah, I never heard of Clarence Carter.
The song is called "I Be Stroking." Yeah, and it was like a smash hit. Like, I be stroking in the east. I be stroking in the like. So like, I'm like, I remember walking in, my parents listening to that one day, and I'm like, oh dog, like I thought, y'all was mad at with the stuff that we listened to, but that's up on the same lines.
Bruh.
The artist, I keep forgetting her name, but the song is "You Can Ring My Bell." I mean, if I don't know who I keep forgetting the lady's name, but I mean, that song right there, if you listen to it, I'm like, yo, come on. If
we look on Esther from Sanford and Son, LaWanda Page, she's got a comedy bit called Pipe Laying Dan, and you can imagine what that's about, and that's in black and white. Like that's a black and white comedy set. So like, yeah, I think we gotta be careful getting on your high horse. Like it might not be appealing to somebody older, but like if kids like it, they're gonna find a way.
Here's my thing with it. It's adult entertainment, and if it's kept in that realm, then fine. I watched part of Cardi's interview, well, most of it with the Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne asked her, "Yo, do you let your daughter listen to that?" And she was like, maybe when she get older, So I mean, it's adult stuff. I think the problem is that it's just so easily accessible by kids. I mean, this song's gonna be on the radio if it's not already. The video is gonna be played. I mean, kids can watch this stuff now. If you put it in a way that only adults should or could get to it, then I don't think people will have as much problem with it. But I don't know.
Well, speaking of, go ahead, Quan.
No, I mean, like you said, it is for adult content. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot in it. You know what I mean? I want my daughter watching this shit. I I gotta turn it down. I don't want Jordan hearing it, the lyrics. I'm like, it is a lot. It is a lot. So if I stumble across my daughter watching it, yeah.
But you know what, yo?
For the adult content, yeah, that's what you like. That's what like you old enough to decipher what is what. I mean, yeah, cool. You know, but yeah, I don't want to.
What's considered old enough? Like, so if Jordan was in high school, would you have a problem with him listening to the song?
I mean, I would, but at the same time, it's like, they're gonna get to it. I mean, he's gonna listen to it somehow. Just like with me, we were listening to Doggy Style. Like, I know, our folks didn't want us listening to it, but somehow the tape guy and I, in our cassette tapes or whatever, or we was always talking about it. So, I mean,
I was about to get you. If you said, because I do remember 9th grade, that little Kim poster circulating when she was kneeling.
My brother had it up on his wall, and I can't believe my mom didn't make him take it down, but he sure enough did.
He definitely had it up.
Yeah, I know you remember.
Like, I remember actually that day. Matter of fact, the first person that had it, Alex.
Who?
Cordy.
Oh, he had it? But he was also the youngest person I knew with a tattoo at the time. So I mean,
I'll never forget, we was in the library, and he had the magazine, and he was passing that joint around, and I remember, I'll never forget that 9th grade. And I'm sure our parents wouldn't have liked us peeping that, but you're right. I mean, it circulates, things like that circulate. You can censor it as with so much, you know what I mean? But especially today with the net and how things are so available on the net. But like you guys said, man, it's generational, man, and every generation had a song or an artist that put some stuff out like that. But I will say, for the most part, from what I've seen online, most people listening to it was like, I've seen some people say, I ran in the car to peep it. You know what I mean? When I went somewhere where I can get away from the kids to peep it. So I think everybody knows the content of the song. So I think it's just like, I think for the most part, people are trying to do their best they want to hear it, but they're trying to keep it away from their kids.
Well, I mean, you're not like, I don't think any of us would like listen to it with our kids, but like, I think y'all are right. Like at a certain age, they can't listen to it around you, but they are going to get to it. And so on some level, it really is what it is, because we all were that age once. And that brings me to my next question. Who y'all got? Whap or Tip Drill?
I got Tip Drill.
You did have that purple do-rag, Quan.
Yeah, and you did have that Reddy Boss jersey.
I did.
You did used to wear your Wild Lake jersey like that too.
Oh shit, that was a good one.
I'm gonna say, easy for me. I'm gonna say Tip Drill, easy. Yeah. Easy Tip Drill.
Yeah, Tip Drill is just like, I don't know what to say. Like ahead of his time. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like, but I felt with like Whap, it was like when you watch it, it's like, oh, okay, we doing that. but it's still like it still doesn't feel like it's not something that we haven't like already seen. Like Tip Drill, I don't remember seeing anything like Tip Drill previous to Tip Drill. But I mean, I'm gonna put Tip Drill on this one.
They also made it for adult content. Like
aired at like 3 a.m, right?
Yeah, you couldn't watch it unless it was like on BET Uncut. So like kids that was 17, 60. You didn't have access to it. Like you had to be, you said you had to be up 3 o'clock in the morning watching BET Uncut videos. So I mean, they also had it in the mind too that it's for adults only.
Did Nelly play Tip Drill in his verses? Do y'all remember? Or did y'all see that one?
Did he? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I would hope so. I would hope he played it. I'm gonna say Tip Drill.
Yeah, he did play it. He played it.
I'm gonna say Tip Drill because of this. One, piggybacking off of what you said, Brandon. Like it was before its time, right? It was something that we never seen on TV, on cable TV or whatever like that.
BET Uncut.
And it was just. I mean, bruh, it was just different. You know what I'm saying? And I think even with Whap, like, I think, it has some sexual content in it, but I think what makes Whap what it is the lyrics and what they're saying and the hook and that type of stuff. I think Tip Drill, I mean the lyrics too, but I think the visual side of Tip Drill is what made it. What made it different and made it what it was or what it turned out to be. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with Tip Drill.
Yeah, the fantasy of how Tip Drill was created, like the house, the the big mansion. It's beautiful outside. It's like you're with all your buddies. You know what I mean? And it's like stripper galore. So like everybody's having fun. Like everybody's out. Yeah, I mean, it just made it. I mean, the whole fantasy of it was just like, yeah, damn, it was great video.
And the reason I say like I feel like I've seen like Whap before, like my lady, she listened to Megan Thee Stallion. So to be honest with you, most of the stuff I heard from Megan Thee Stallion is on this level. It's just. She got, it's her and Cardi B in the song, and the video gives you plenty of visuals.
Yeah, I feel like so. I'm gonna be honest, man. Like listening to this last night, Whap was the very first time I'd ever heard Meg Thee Stallion rap. I had never heard her rap before. I had no desire to, but I didn't. But I think the song is a banger. I think I was surprised at how good it was. It starts off with, there's some hoes in this house, like the old club song joint. Like, I mean, to me, it was a banger. But in terms of what they're saying, we grew up in the 90s, and there was a young woman named Lil' Kim, and she would get pretty sexual on tracks, right? So, like, there's nothing that Whap is going to produce that I haven't heard from someone like Kim or Foxy Brown. But then with Tip Drill, the visual, you're right. The lyrics, the lyrics were wild, but then the visuals of swiping the credit card between the girl's butt cheeks and her twerking, like we had never seen nothing like that before. Like that. But I was talking to Quan about this before we record. I'll throw this one out. There's no video for it, but Snoop played it during his verses with DMX. Ain't no fun.
Oh, I mean, that's in my head as you was talking. That is weird.
Ain't no fun is pretty vulgar. Like if that had a video,
yeah,
that was when
they probably. It's no way. I'm pretty sure they probably tried to attempt or wanted to do one. There's no way that joint would have got cleared in any way when that joint got.
They would have pulled it off. They would have pulled it off somehow, some way. Hey, they pulled off Doggy Style. They I don't know, yo, but Nate Dogg, yo, he's one of my favorites. Like his verses are classic. They are a A lot of them are raunchy as hell, but he's singing his ass off.
Yes, he does. He does. Nate Dogg's one of the greats. One of the greats.
Yeah, I'm a big Nate Dogg fan. Well, I guess I want to transition to a more lighter, serious conversation. I don't really know how to do that after talking about tip drill and ain't no fun.
Baby.
But on a more serious tip, I saw this question the other day, and y'all have probably seen it in a number of places also. But basically, the question was like who's number one in your life, or who would come first, your wife, your child, or your mother? And I hate these hypothetical questions, but I did want to talk to you guys about that and just kind of set the backdrop for any of the viewers or listeners that might, to get an understanding of what our perspectives may be individually, or why we may choose who we choose or whatever. Like, I'm the only non-parent on the show. My 3 co-hosts all have kids. I'm the only one that's actually married on the show. And then Mike and I have lost our mothers already. And so that might play into who we decide is number one or whatever, but just to give everybody a backdrop on what our decision-making may be. But I don't know who wants to go first. But I mean, by all means, someone take a stab at it.
You want to go, Parker? Yeah.
Nah, go ahead. You got it, bro.
I think it's for me. It's dynamic. I mean, right now, since I'm not married, my child is number one for me. I would say after. I mean, for me right now, I mean, of course, my child, my family. So that's my child, my mom, and then my lady. But once she becomes my wife, I mean, this is like my life partner. And in a lot of ways, basically, a lot of ways right now, my lady is probably, my number one priority, like when my son is not here in the house. So it really depends on the situation, at the time. But I mean, once I get married, I mean, she'll definitely be, I think she was at the top of the list there. And then that's tough right there, because then it kind of flip-flops between like your child and your mom. But again, it depends on, for me, it depends on the situation. But I guess by default, it would be my wife, my child, and then my mom.
Yeah, I agree. Once you're married, I believe in research that I've done. Once you're married, it becomes your wife, your kids, your mother. That's how the order should be. Because shit, if you don't take care of what you need to for your wife, your ass ain't gonna be happy because she ain't gonna be happy. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean that's the order. That's the order of how it should go. I believe when you're married. Just like you said, if you're something to where you have kids or then your kids come first. The person that you're with, you know what I mean, their priority as well. Family, their priority. But once you're married, yeah, you know what I mean, that your life partner who you're with, that she comes first.
So, and Alex, I appreciate how you put it to start this segment. So, from a biblical sense, right? Yeah, we all are spiritual beings in one way or another. From a biblical sense, it's once you're married, it's your wife, spouse, mother, right? I don't disagree with that. But I do think certain dynamics can change that thought process. As someone like Alex said, who's lost a mom, and in that process, we both have similarities in the process of, in the way that we lost our mom. We, at one point in time, became caregivers of those people, of our mother. So, once you're thrusted into that role, I know for myself, and I'm sure it's different for Alex because he was actually married during that time. I was a single man during the time that I lost my mom, but I know that I shut everything else out around that time. She was it. You know what I mean? I got to take care of my mom, and that's it. And it hurt. I'm not gonna say. Well, it did. It did hurt some situations when it came to dating, because I had to let that be known. Like, bro, like, my time might be a little bit, handcuffed, because my mom is my priority. And they all from the jump said they understood. But once it came down to that very those moments when I had to cancel something because I had to take care of my mom, it became an issue. So, like I said, I don't disagree with the biblical sense of it. I agree with that, but I do think there's certain, I think situations change that, and I think for Brandon, if from the outside looking in and knowing your ass for 25 years, I'm sure your son becomes number one for you because of your circumstances. He's not in home with you all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that circumstance is what plays a role in him being number one for you. You know what I'm saying? And even when you get married, that may not change. You see what I'm saying?
I see. Yeah, I feel you.
So it's because he, you know what I mean? It's just because that's the circumstance. So I don't want to speak for her, but I think, in my situation, I know with my fiance, I know her kids are the world to her. So I don't take it personal if it was her to say, like, yo, with her circumstance and stuff like that, that my kids are my number one, especially when we first met. So I just think it's based on the circumstance and the situation in which you're going on. But I do think it's vital to understand what they say the biblical order is as well. I think it's vital to understand that meaning, but it's also vital to be able to understand that circumstances may level some of those things out. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe in the biblical sense. And one of the things about this conversation that, like, when I see it on social media or other places that gets on my nerves is people take it so literal, right? Like, well, what if we only had like one peanut butter and jelly sandwich and my wife had to eat on my kid? Well, come on, man. Like, obviously the kid needs to eat, right? Or like, what if someone needed an organ? Like, what, does someone need an organ right now? Like, let's talk about like real life, like how things really are. And for me, it's not who's at the top. It's more who's at the bottom, and the bottom being the foundation. And so if you look at it from a biblical sense, the Bible says you leave your parents' home, you start your own, you and your spouse are supposed to be the foundation. And if you and your spouse are the foundation, then everything else can go on top of that, right? Like your child clearly comes on top of that. If your parents need support, that goes on top of that. So for me, it's more of a foundational thing. We were having this conversation last night, me and my wife, because like not being parents, people are always like, well, you don't understand. And to some degree, I don't, because I'm not a parent. In other ways, I'm like, yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't be a parent because things don't always look so great. But we were talking about it in the context of, like, for example, someone saying, I don't know what it's like to have to get up in the middle of the night and be up all night with my kid, right? Because I don't have a child. But my thing is, well, all you're doing is going down the hall. I can't tell you how many times I was up at 1, 2 in the morning with my mother, who lived 45 minutes away, and being rushed to the hospital and being in the hospital for 6 hours middle of the night. Like, that's a different level of taking care of somebody than going down the hall and picking up your kid because they won't sleep. Yeah. And so on some level, I get what it's like to be stretched thin when you have someone that's dependent on you. But also I think like my mother never expected me to put her above my wife. Like that was never even, I know some parents think that way, but like that wasn't even a thought. Like my priority is who's in my home. And that doesn't mean that like I was going to let my mom go through her situation by herself, or if my mom did need something financially. Thank God she didn't. But if she did, like, well, certainly I would show support. I'd give support. But like, it come to me, these conversations always end up being like, well, the kid comes first. Well, yeah, in certain situations, but the truth is, like, really depends on who's in your home. And it does depend on if you're a parent, if you're married, or if you have a parent that's sick, or maybe your mother doesn't have a husband. I think that plays a role too. Like if your mother is husbandless, she may lean on you a bit more than if she did have a husband.
Yeah.
But whoever you rank number one, I do believe it has to be your spouse. Like I fundamentally believe that. But that's just me. I don't expect everybody to agree.
Yeah, too. I feel as though like you said, it goes back to people taking things out of content so much that like they take, like you said, cutting the peanut butter sandwich, and who's going to eat first? The kid will. No, I mean, at the end of the day, as long as the foundation is straight, we're going to make sure that our kid, you know what I mean, or my son or is going to be all right, or my mother or my, their mother or father is going to be okay. That's not, like you said, it's sometimes it's taken out of context. You know what I mean? It's not to say that like you're not going to be supportive of, you're not going to do what you need to do for your family. It's just that, like you said, you leave and you cleave to your wife, so you begin to build that foundation of your family. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna also make sure that people that family that have cultivated and taught you so much that you're gonna be there for them. You know what I mean? But you also got to make sure that life that you're building is strong and sturdy. So
you can't support nobody else if your foundation ain't right.
Right. And also, like, people may think they may equate with like the amount of time they spend nurturing one or the other. See, most people, if you have one child or two kids living in the house with you, you're probably spending the majority of your time tending to them. Mm-hmm. So that's why people say, well, the kids got to get this, kids got to get that. That's why they come first. Well, that's not necessarily true, as we all have already alluded to. It's like you said, it's that foundation. Because if you're trying to take care of 1, 2, 3, I got one. He's very energetic, and I don't have him all the time. He runs me, he runs me ragged. Now, if I'm not on the same accord with my lady, and they're all in the house at the same time, that just makes things a lot more difficult. So, yeah.
Do you think that when people spend too much time focusing on their child, that their relationship can suffer, their marriage can suffer?
Well, if it's not about, it kind of is about the amount of time you spend with your child, but it's more so, are you setting aside time for your spouse? So like I just said, you might spend the majority of your day, especially with the kids home now, with school going on, you might spend the majority of the day, trying to get them situated as far as eating, schooling, and all of that. But you definitely have to set aside time to take care of your spouse, tend to their emotional needs, their attention, and I mean, as a man, I was just watching Breaking Bad again, and it's the part where Gustavo is telling Walt, a man does what a man has to do, even when he's not appreciated. He doesn't feel loved. He does it because that's what he has to do. So, as a man, you have to make sure that you spending your time accordingly, accordingly. Now, it might mean that, you stretching yourself thin, and, you might have to cut out some of the things that, that are for you, time wise. But I mean, it's all about decisions, what you want in your own house.
Let me throw this at y'all. Do you think it's easier for a husband to make his wife the number one priority, or easier for a wife to make her husband the number one priority?
That's a good question. I'm gonna say it's easier for a woman from this standpoint. We are like dudes. We are naturally like, I don't care what nobody says. most dudes I know are naturally like mama's boys. Like, yo, you love
I
your.
don't know, dog. I wasn't a mama's boy at all.
You weren't a mama's boy, but like you. So okay, the point I'm making is we all had that woman in our life that was who we looked to be nurtured, and that for you may have been your grandma, right? So like it's not maybe okay, maybe using the word. I see my man Keem, you're not a mama's boy either, but maybe not mama's boy. But I'm saying like you have a soft spot for that woman in your life, whoever it is. Like I said, Alex, for you it might have been your grandma. You know what I'm saying? For me, my mom, Brandon, your mom, or your grandma, Brandon, you was real close to your grandmother too.
So you don't have that same soft spot for your fathers?
I do. Now you know my dad. You know my dad was my best friend, but I just think that for us, I think it's the opposite, right? So I think for men, it's harder to put somebody above your mom, right, or the leading ladies in your family. I think for women, it's harder to put. It may be harder sometimes to put somebody over your dad, but if you factor in and you go a little deeper to all of these fatherless homes, unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just feel like most of the time the mom is typically there, or those womanly figures are typically there. So it's just hard. I just feel like I don't know. I think it's easier for a woman, man, to put a man first. I just do. I don't know. I mean, if you look deeper into it, like I said, from these fatherless homes or whatever the case may be, but I think that it's a little tighter between that bond between a man and his mom, or a man and his grandmother, or whoever that foundation is of their family. I think that bond I mean, it's tight. Like, we don't, as men, we don't ask for much, right? Especially from a nurturing standpoint. So that one person who gives us that, like, we don't ever want to let that go. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to see somebody replacing that. You know what I mean? And I know for myself, even after my mom passed, and then I moved on and my life and started dating, it was still hard for me to let that wall down of letting anybody do anything for me, on down to like a woman wanting to make my plate for me.
Don't get started on you getting your plate made, man.
But it was just that. I mean, it was just because I knew that was gone. So it was like allowing that wall down is kind of like, oh, yo, I'm letting my mom go. I'm letting somebody replace that. So it was tough. It was mentally tough for me too, from that standpoint.
I find it interesting you use the word replace. And I think that's what a lot of people do that. Like, you get married, you're replacing somebody. Like, my mom made a speech at my wedding, and she was like, now she knows she has to let me go. And the truth is, like, I love my mom to death, but like, I was never a mama's boy. I was more attached to my grandmother, but she's been gone since I was 17. So like, when I got married, I was fully independent at that point. And even when I got married, my wife didn't replace my mom. When my grandmother was alive, she did not replace my mom. Like, the roles just happen to change a bit. Like, as you get older and as you get married and as you have children, the roles change. So even a child doesn't replace your spouse or vice. Like, those things don't. They just all have different roles, I think, in your life.
I find it interesting that the one person who's never on any of these lists in any conversation is the father. Like, where's the father on your priority list? It's like nobody gives a crap about dads. I told you I wouldn't cuss no more. But like, it's like, man, we already understand like what it is, like the things that we just, like, women or I think are naturally nurturers, and men naturally are like the providers, the protectors. So there's so many things that are like on a man's mind. Like, a lot of times we're the ones that are determining the direction of the family, regardless of who makes what amount of money. Like, there's a lot on a man's mind. And I just think other men, like our fathers, understood that. So it's like, maybe we don't have to be on the list, but I just find it interesting that it's like his wife, child, mother. Like, father is never in this discussion.
Like, it seems like fathers kind of get thrown to the briar patch.
Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, men need support too.
In our minds, that's going on in this like mother, child, wife. Like, but hey.
What about, yes.
I mean, do you feel like, so all three of you had your dads. So do you feel like your dads got left out by your mother sometime? Like your mother may have sometimes forgotten about your dad or not shown your father the attention they deserve?
To an extent, yeah. And also not by doing it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But you also get to understand as you become older and you become your own man and your own father, you have your own kids, you begin to see the certain dynamic of the things that your father may have went through when he was your age. You know what I mean? When he was going through what he was going through. For instance, let me think of a good situation. Situation in the sense of maybe you wanting to be there for your son at that particular, I'm just saying hypothetically, whatever, at that basketball game. And maybe the father wasn't able to be there that night because he had to actually work a double or something, But, in the mother's eyes, it may have been, he could have made that game, or he could have did this or that. And maybe could have said that. I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm saying hypothetically speaking, maybe the mother could have said that to the son or the whatever. But in actuality and in hindsight, the father wanted to make sure he was there. The father, tried maybe to do everything in his power to actually be there, but maybe because of some type of situation, he wasn't able to, But in the mother's eyes, and maybe in his eyes, he may have saw it as like, well, my dad didn't want to be there. And that just isn't the case. You know what I mean? The case just could have been, if he doesn't work, then he doesn't have a job. And then he can't provide for his son. You know what I mean? Or I'm just saying in hindsight of that. So, I mean, that could be something. That could be a something. Yeah.
I mean, we as men, we have other things on our minds. So I think because if you're playing the role as a man and you are providing, you're doing these things, that's really your main concern. I guess where you fit on somebody else's priority list, other than your wife's, or it really probably doesn't even matter. At least to me, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the role of a man, especially around the time that our fathers grew up, I think it was appreciated. I think it was like unwritten, though, if so to speak, or unspoken of. Like everybody knew, the dad, brought home the chicken. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't, and everybody knew. Like typically, that's how we surviving. That's how we living. But for some reason, like you said, Brandon, it was never really the focal point of conversation, which is, I would say, interesting. But I mean, I get it. I understand why. I mean, this is what happens to us at times. But I don't. In my particular situation, I think one of the things that I respected about my parents is like, they had a great balance, and at the end of the day, whatever they may have gone through, whatever may have been going on at the time, whatever issue they may be fronted with, they were the ultimate teammates. So they fought that shit together. And I've always respected that about my parents. Like, I seen it like, all right, bam, this is what's going on. We're gonna take care of this shit together. We're gonna band together and make sure we take care of it. So from my standpoint, it was just an equal respect. Like I knew the respect that they had for each other. They showed it in different ways, of course. You know what I mean? My mom wasn't shy of cussing my dad out when it needed to be, when it needed to happen. But but they ultimately respected each other. So I don't think that my dad was missing anything in that department with me growing up.
Well, I don't want to put y'all on the spot, so I'm going to ask this as we close out the show, so you don't have to give you don't have to go too deep if you don't want. But before we close out, just you guys as men, and I can answer this too, but like as men, and you guys are fathers, do you feel supported the way that you need to be in 2020?
Mm.
Y'all shook the answer. I can already tell.
Do you feel supported? I'll be honest with you. I've kind of just through life lessons I learned a long time ago. As far as support, like it's always appreciated and sometimes it is needed, you know. But I don't look to be supported. You know what I'm saying? Like anything that I got myself into, I'm trying to get myself out of. And as far as like money is concerned, financially, I made a pact with myself a long time ago to not ask my parents for money. A long time ago, early probably mid-20s at the latest. I was like, I'm not asking my parents for any more money. So from that standpoint, I don't really look for it. Like other ways, maybe like I guess like emotional support and stuff like that. I think I had that. I think I had that in my circle. So although I don't look for it, I think I have what I need. I have what I need to get to where I'm going.
Yeah, no, like, you know, like pushing every day, striving every day. Of course, you know, praying to God every day to give me the strength, the sincerity. To give me the serenity that, you know, that I need. Like I said, I'm pushing to do what I got to do, man, to be a better father, you know, to make sure I give my son what he needs, you know. I'm out here, and you know, financially as a father and as a man, I'm on my own. It is what it is, which is, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. So like at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not really sitting there asking or like begging or complaining, you know. It is what it is. But I do feel as though that I'm able to, you know, have the support that's needed. Like I said, from family, my friends, you know, my lady. So from that aspect, yeah, you know, but I think as society, as far as a black father, nah. No. But at the end of the day, like, you know, that's how most black men probably feel. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I'm not complaining, but it is what it is. So, you know, I just continue to push, continue to keep doing what I got to do. Yeah, man, and you know, shit, and keep striving. You know what I mean? To hope to, you know, for something better, something great, and continue to send in my life. You know what I mean? Keep pushing. You know, like I said, for my son, my baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to go that route, Quan, if you didn't. Like, I don't think the world itself, I don't feel supported. My household, my lady, my family, my friends, I feel supported that in that way. As you know, I just became a first-time father, so you know, all of y'all wanted that for me. Just some of y'all wanted it for me more than I wanted it for myself. So from that standpoint, like I've had tremendous support to, you know, when I was blessed with this situation. My lady went out and beyond to even give me this, you know, to bless me the chance to be a father. So like I'm forever indebted to her because of some of the things she had to go through to make that happen. That some people, you know, don't know. But I do think the world itself, like, it doesn't support us. It doesn't support black men. It doesn't support black fathers. I feel like you know what bugs me? I post my son often on my social medias. And the part, I mean, it's I feel the love, but then at times, like you feel like it's a surprise to people. You know, it's like, wow, he's really invested in his child's life and upbringing, and it's like that's the part that bugs me. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a fight. I feel like it's a fight for us as black fathers to prove that we want to be here. Like we got, it's like we got to show society, we got to show the world that like the narrative that they creating or have created for us as black men that don't want to be present is false. And I feel like we're up against that every day.
Every single day, man. Every
So,
single day.
so it's like, you know, it's like when you see that, when someone see you with your son or your child and that joy that brings you, you know, when they have that, oh man, that type of look, it's like, what? I mean, what else am I supposed to, like, you know, I'm only doing what I'm supposed to do, right? But it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's going to always be against us. So no, I don't get that support from that. You know what I mean? I do feel like that. I do feel sometimes that, you know, the praise that you get from other people sometimes is a little. I think they mean well, but I think it you know, that whole factor of being shocked or happy that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, it kind of irks me. It kind of throws me off a little bit.
I mean, y'all are right. I don't think black men are supported the way they need to. And in fairness, black women aren't either. Sometimes it feels like we're butting heads to try to get support. And
Bingo.
You know, from a society perspective. And the truth is both black men and black women are oppressed in this world. Both are left to their own devices and trying to figure things out. And, you know, working together is the best way. Me individually, me personally, I feel supported. Like, not that I ask for support, but like when you get married, you basically like you sign up for the support. Like if you're getting married, then you agree to support that person through thick and thin. And I know my wife supports me. Outside of that, from a support perspective, like I don't really look to anybody else for support.
Right.
Like, mom is gone, grandmother's gone, grandfather's sick. And I've got aunts and uncles that, you know, I know are there, but like I'm 38 years old. So at a certain point, like even long before this, I realized like, all right, I had to get myself straight because all those people that were giving support weren't going to be able to, either because they were going to die, unfortunately, or they were, you know, they're getting older, they're retiring. And in the case of my aunts and uncles, they have their own kids. So like at some point you have to stand on your own too. And if you're in a relationship, you know, with your spouse, but yeah, I feel supported and I'm fortunate with that. And I've always felt like there was people that were looking out for me, but I know everybody doesn't have that. But I do recognize when I go out in the world, I'm viewed as a threat. I'm viewed as someone nobody cares about. And so to me, it goes back to the foundation thing. Like it's important for me and within my four walls to have a solid foundation with my spouse. And hopefully with that foundation, then we can just endure what gets thrown at us. But no, I agree with you guys that the black men certainly aren't supported the way they need to. Now, I will say this. I do think that we do get a lot of support from women, like from our mothers, our grandmothers. Sometimes that, you know, the other women in our lives. I do think we get a lot of support from that standpoint, but we just have to work together to support each other. So that's all I got on that front, unless one of you gentlemen want to elaborate.
No, I think that's important.
I agree. You get that support, and you know it's provided. The black women in our lives, the queens in our lives, the old earth in our lives, they do that for us. And also too, we gotta step to the plate and do that as well for them. And I'm talking about me personally. You know, every day, you know, making sure that I do what's right. You know, for my family, for my lady, listening and staying focused and paying attention. So, like I said, yeah, I mean, that's for everybody. That's they provide that. We have to provide that as well. Now, like I said, I'm just talking about for me personally. So, that being said, man, that was true, bro.
It's important. It's important what you said though, Alex. That I think one thing that gets lost is, and we spoke about this before, but I bet that 90 to 95% of the beef that's within a relationship is just that point that you made, not understanding what each other's going through or how they feel when they walk outside the door. You know what I'm saying? And looking for that understanding or looking for that support. You know what I mean? And then it becomes a battle, like you said. So I think that, as Black folks, we gotta be mindful of that. That we ladies, we realize when you walk outside the door that it's against you as well as it is against us. And once we all recognize that that's the case, I think it'll be better for everybody.
I couldn't said it better. You got anything you want to close out on, Brandon?
Nah, not that much. I mean, I didn't think about it from the perspective of from society supporting Black men, but I agree with everything you guys said as far as feeling supported there. But I don't know. I guess from a personal perspective, again, I kind of subscribe more to the life is kind of what you make it. And while I realize we've had our hurdles as Black men and as as Black people, we still I believe have some control of our destiny. The other piece, obviously, God, if you're not religious or whatever, but we have access to information now. We have access to each other. And a lot of Black folks out here are, already getting it. So, this whole Buy Black movement, let's continue to keep that push. I think it's just the beginning. I think things are going to change from a wealth standpoint for Black folks in the future. I think our children will benefit from it more than we will, and hopefully their children benefit from it more than they do. But I don't know. I like I said, I agree with everything you guys said, but I guess from a personal standpoint, I feel like we have what we need. We know that we can build our own. You doing it yourself, brother. Let's get out here. Let's use these tools that we have. Let's support each other. We need to fill in our own gaps in that sense. In my opinion, we need to fill in that gap for each other, for our own selves, support each other. So,
well said, man. Well, thank everybody for either watching or listening to the show. I'm Alex. That's Brandon, Quan, and Mike. You've been listening to Off the Record.
Shout out to